Welcome back to Live With, brought to you by Yamamoto Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo, and we're here today with IFBB 212 Pro and good friend to the show, Guy Cisternino. You're getting gray. What's going on?
How you doing?
Good. You're gray. What's going on? I thought your beard was jet black. Is that
Hell
Guy?
no, that's Charles Dixon. He gets his Sharpied in. I let the El Natural show through.
Yeah, but I always see you in the off season. You got a very dark beard. I don't remember you.
It's
being
very
gray.
full, dark, but there's like a lot of big gray patches on the sides and the front.
Oh.
I mean, this could be a little sunlight, but yeah, it's a
No,
little
I see the gray now, but I don't remember seeing it in the past.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of gray. I got no gray in my hair, but gray in my beard. It makes no sense.
Do you like the look? I mean, is that like a good look for you? Do you like being a little more mature looking?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I don't know. I can never picture myself dyeing my beard.
Got to get just for men. But you know what? You always had a very young face. You look like a little kid. Do you do this because you like the fact that it makes you a little tougher, a little older looking?
I like the beard look, to be honest with you, and I hate shaving my face. I mean, when I shaved it for New York, I was like, Jesus, I look like a fucking 16-year-old kid that hasn't hit puberty yet.
They like that look, though, the judges. It's a youthful look, you know, and you're lucky you still have it because you're not 25 anymore, you know.
No, I'm 35.
When you hit 40, you'll shave it. You'll see you'll want to look young, man.
I'll probably be bald.
You're lucky you have your hair this long. Let me ask you a question. A lot of people know you entered the New York Pro. You had been the defending champion for the last 2 years in that 212 division, and we didn't see you at the night show. You didn't look your best at the prejudging. You disappeared. A lot of people don't know where you went. I know for a fact you went to the hospital emergency room. Tell us what happened. Give us the story.
All right, so to make a very, very long story as short as I possibly can, so I started getting these spots on me about a year and a half ago. I had a couple, like, they almost looked like black and blue spots, very symmetrical on my body, under my arm, my lats, inside my legs. I've been to a couple dermatologists, got a blood panel done. They couldn't find anything. They actually did 2 different biopsies back then, found nothing. I'm completely fine. So fast forward to the week before New York Pro, I do my normal thing, you know, go tanning up until, you know, Monday and yada, yada, yada. So Tuesday night, I was filming for Gasp and Centurion Labs at a pollen gym. And that night I got home, I felt my skin almost on fire, which was very odd because I hadn't tanned until I tanned the previous day. But now we're talking 24 hours later. I'm starting to feel like a burning, itching sensation. I chalked it up to maybe something in the gym. I took some Benadryl, went to sleep, woke up, and it was even worse. It was a lot more red. I had a lot of dark spots on me. So Wednesday morning, I kind of just, you know, was like, shit, I hope this goes away. I sent Chris pictures. Chris goes, you look insanely peeled, but you're covered in those black and blues. So Wednesday night, I drove into White Plains because Chris had gone in early. And you know how I am. If, you know, Chris was there 2 weeks early, I would have drove and stayed at a hotel in New York for 2 weeks. I want to be close to him to make sure I'm 100%. And Wednesday night, I ended up I couldn't even fall asleep. I was in, you know, so much pain from the black and blue marks that I drove myself to Greenwich Hospital, which is in Connecticut, which borders White Plains, because I'm familiar with Connecticut because I went to school in Connecticut. And I was there from Wednesday night until Thursday afternoon. Went back to the hotel Thursday, and so I was there Wednesday night to Thursday afternoon. Got back to the hotel Thursday. I don't even know what happened, but I ended up falling asleep. Chris comes banging on my door. This is Chris's story. I don't wake up. Chris goes downstairs an hour and a half later because I still hadn't contacted him. He comes back up to my room. He makes the people that run the hotel open my room, and apparently they said they weren't allowed to open my room because Chris didn't have authorization. And Chris said, I know for a fact he was in the ER last night. If you don't let me in the room and he's not breathing or something's wrong, like, you guys are going to all lose your fucking jobs. So they ended up letting Chris into the room. Chris said he shook me violently and I didn't wake up. He said he got so nervous that he actually took my pulse to make sure I was still breathing. And he puts this little note on my bed stacked up with like all my cans of tobacco and my keys to my car and all this shit. Makes like a little tower and puts, I was here, room 664, call me, and just leaves. And then like 2 hours later, he comes back again, bangs on my door, wakes me up. I finally wake up. I wake up. There's him at the door and this black lady that was working the desk. And she looks at me and she was like, "Do you know him?" And I was so out of it. And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Okay." And she just walks away. And Chris tells me the whole story. So now I go to Bev's. I work out. Steve Weinberger looks at me and, he said I looked phenomenal, but, those spots were pretty bad. And he was like, "Oh, hopefully it'll cover it up with the tan." And so I was pretty much good Thursday because they gave me a shot of Medrol and like some liquid Benadryl. So I think that kind of subsided whatever adverse reaction was happening. But then once Friday night came into Saturday, I was feeling worse and worse and worse. And then I think the kicker was backstage when they started putting oil on me and rubbing my skin because I was already in so much pain. That just intensified it times 10 to the point where after I walked out of prejudging, I could barely even stand. That's how much pain I was in. Yeah.
The actual red spots?
Yeah, it felt like the way I described it to the doctors was the worst case of sunburn you could ever imagine, and then somebody pushing you into a hot shower.
Wow. Not good.
It felt like I was physically on fire, like somebody lit a match and just threw gasoline on me and lit me on fire. Now,
I know that they did extensive testing on you. All your blood stuff came back normal, and the diagnosis they told you was a phototoxic reaction. They think from the sun tanning combined maybe with like some diuretics or something like that. Is that what we're thinking right now?
Yeah, so it's been a month. I just went to the doctors Wednesday. They told me that they're like, "Oh, you're lucky. It's not as bad as we thought." And I was like, "Well, what did you think?" Because I said when I was in the hospital and I asked you guys, because it was the dermatologist that saw me in the hospital. I said, when I asked you in the hospital what you thought it was, you kind of just brushed it off and said, "We don't know yet." And the dermatologist's answer was, we don't like if it's something major that we might suspect in a hypothesis, we're not going to tell you to make you more nervous. So they thought it was something called sweet syndrome, which is some sort of like very severe skin cancer. Which luckily I don't. They said it's called like I told you earlier, phototoxic reaction, which is something, an antibiotic, a medication that you ingest that activates negatively when there's UV light or sunlight, natural sunlight on you, causes that chemical with the sunlight causes you to almost to burn from the inside out, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, you can see if you look at your back, you can see all the contact points that would make contact with that tanning bed kind of got burned. But it's kind of weird because I know you've tanned before and I know you've taken diuretics before. It's just a wacky, maybe bad stroke of luck. I mean, I guess is the best way you can put it. Obviously, you never want to have something like this happen to you like 3 days before a show. It's a nightmare scenario.
I mean, I almost backed out of the show Wednesday or Thursday when I got back from the ER because I knew how bad the spots looked. And even if I looked great, I still think it took away from my physique. But on top of me being in pain, the stress from being in so much pain, I had a film from top to bottom. And mentally, I was just trying to get through it because I made it that far. But looking back now, I was like, man, I should have just done myself a favor and backed out. But I'm not the type of guy to get ready for a fucking show and turn around and I would have been hit by a fucking Mack truck in order for me to not show up at the show. Yeah. But once I walked off stage, I literally walked in the parking lot and I saw my training partner and I couldn't even lift my head up because I had it all around my neck and I couldn't even lift my head up to talk to him. So he drove right to the emergency room, was there from Saturday till Tuesday.
Wow. When you think about, what happened and you think about like all the scenarios, all the stuff we do to get in shape, to get to a show, did you say to yourself at some point, like, what the fuck did I do to myself? Because I know that's what I would say to myself. I'd be like, man, I fucked myself up. I can't believe I did all that. Did you start doubting yourself or did you say, no, I'm going to get to the bottom of it? Were you cool-headed?
I mean, I'm cool-headed in the sense where I'm like, they're going to figure it out. And if it's worst case scenario, like cancer or something bad, then I'll have to just deal with it and just, whatever happens. But yeah, I was I was nervous when I left prejudging because I can't even remember A, the last time I was in the fucking emergency room. And B, I don't ever remember thinking to myself, like, well, I was nervous. I thought something was like seriously, seriously fucking wrong with me.
Right. You know what?
Because I never felt like that in my life. And I was like, if I feel this bad right now, what's going to happen in the next hour, in the next 2 hours, tomorrow? So that's what was making me really fucking nervous.
Cancer
it was almost to the point, Dave, where if the pain got any worse, they would have probably had to fucking put me in like an induced coma because they were giving me Dilaudid and morphine every 4 hours, and that still wasn't kicking the pain. So
really?
You obviously, with your background, know what Dilaudid and morphine is. They were giving me the combo of that every 4 hours, and that still was not kicking the pain. And it wasn't even putting me to fucking sleep.
Wow. Yeah, that's strong shit. They give that to cancer patients. You had to realize it wasn't cancer because in 2 or 3 days, cancer just doesn't pop up all over your body. That's just not how it works. It was definitely a reaction to something that happened or you were doing, which still doesn't make it any less scary because pain and looking at these things all over your body has got, as a bodybuilder too, who is so we're so preoccupied with the way we look, has got to drive you nuts. To some degree. Now, a lot of guys, for some reason, were bad-mouthing you and didn't really believe that you had anything wrong with you, and they thought you were making excuses. Why do you think that is? I think Sean Clarita even said something like kind of negative about the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go throw out fucking names. The guys that are going to watch this know who they are that we're talking to. I heard that there was actually families running their mouth of some of the competitors in the show. I guess some of the guys were a little butthurt that I made comments that because it was truth. I was going for a 3-peat because I won it in 15, 16. This was 17. And some people took offense to that when it was just a fact. I wasn't, going after anybody. And I also stated another fact that anybody in that show has never beaten me or they're newcomers. So it's going to be my first time competing against them. So I said pretty much going into it, they have to fucking beat me. And I guess some people took it personal, which I don't know why, because if Flex Lewis did an interview and said, the guy's never beaten me. I was in Flex's wedding. I'm one of his best friends. That's a fact. Why am I going to get fucking mad at a factual statement? Like, that's just ridiculous. As a friend, as an athlete, as a competitor, fact is fact. If you've never beaten somebody, it is what it is. And, people thought I heard everything from if I was in the first call out, I probably would have showed up for the night show, which is absolutely bullshit. I could have been called off stage by myself and I would have still went to the fucking emergency room. That's number one. Number two, I also heard that, he probably painted the spots on him because he knew he wasn't going to fucking win. And the thing that pisses me off the most is it came from competitors that I compete against, that I'm friends with, that I've actually given advice to, encouraged. So, now that they're on a high, because first of all, they think they beat me, and they fucking didn't beat me. I did not finish because I was obviously ill and in the hospital for 4 days. So they can run their mouth. They got 365 days to run their mouth. So I'm not doing the Olympia. I'm taking off the rest of the year. So they got 365 days to keep their teeth in their mouth until I kick fucking teeth out on stage next year.
What did Sean Clarita say to you? I know you were very upset by some of the comments he made.
He didn't say anything directly to me. It was something that was brought to my attention on Facebook, and it was, it started with a picture. I don't really know, because the funny part was that my name was brought up like 30 fucking times on the Facebook page before I even saw it, because Sean or whoever was writing it was just writing my name. And in order for somebody to see something to come up as a notification, you have to physically tag them. Right. So it was being brought up pretty much behind my back. And, a couple people brought it to my attention. I didn't comment on anything. I let everybody else talk. I didn't, was I upset with Sean? He put a public apology up on his Facebook page apologizing because he said he knew it was, wrong to, for some of the stuff that was said. So, but my whole thing is this, is that when somebody says something out loud to you in, the midst of a moment or, emotions, that's one thing. But when you premeditate something and put something down on paper and write it, what the fuck you're doing. So that's what really bothers me about the whole situation, is that, these things were being wrote online. And I'm not pointing a finger, at just Sean, because I heard there was a couple people that were doing it. But, Sean is the only one that really fucking had the decency at this point to at least publicly apologize, because I guess maybe he really didn't know how severe it was. I just read something today that said, God bless his family, because I heard that he lost his mother-in-law 2 weeks before New York, and then I think a week or two later, his uncle his uncle or his cousin was murdered. And he said it was like that he kept it to himself. That's like if he pulled out of a show or did the show and wasn't at his best, and then I go throw that in his face. Well, too fucking I would never, ever, ever do such a thing. Like that is just like as a competitor, even if I don't like the person, I wouldn't do that. So I wasn't even mad. I was just more like taken back and upset because those are supposed to be competitors and we're a tight knit group. So I mean, it is what it is. It's water under the bridge, but they just better watch their back the next time they step on stage.
Now, Guy, if you were at your best, do you think you would have beaten Ronnie Raquel and Sean Clarita?
I've beaten them before. If I was at my best, they would have never even fucking touched me.
Okay. Right. That's I can respect that. You have beaten them both before. Do you think Clarita, with the improvements he made from last year, I mean, he gained a lot of muscle, over 10 pounds. You still don't think he would have beat you, huh?
No.
Okay. All right. I'll buy that. So now you're taking the rest of the year off. That's going to be tough for you to skip the Olympia because you haven't missed the Olympia for such a long time. What's the reasoning for that? You just because of everything you've gone through, or do you feel just burnt out?
Dave, I've been competing as a pro. I turned pro, obviously, under your guidance in 2008.
Right.
I've been competing as a pro since 2010, and I have not. And 2010 was the only year that I didn't qualify for the Olympia. I qualified from 2011 until present, and I haven't had an off season. A lot of these fucking guys don't compete nearly as much as I do, and if they do the Arnold and the Olympia. And they take they take all the time in between and after off. And I'm sitting here going doing open shows, 212 shows, fucking traveling all over the world. So, it's time that I take some time for myself and put on some much needed muscle because, I am, 5'5.5". I'm on the taller side of the 212 class. And a lot of those guys step on stage at, 210, 211, 212, where I'm still in like the 205, 206, 207 range. So I still got some pounds of muscle to pack on. I'm 35. This is where my prime time is. So me going to the Olympia on points isn't something that I would like to do since I haven't won a show. It's not something that I feel strongly about. I'm the type of guy where if I don't win a show, if I'm not good enough to win a fucking show, I'm not good enough to go to the Olympia. That's just how I view it. Listen, there's some guys that might not ever win a show, so the point system works for them. I, however, have won 6 pro shows. I'm in top 6 in the Olympia. I know my worth. I know my value. I know how good of a competitor I am. So if I don't win a show, no, I don't want to go to the Olympia because I don't feel like I earn the respect and the right to be on the stage with the guys that have taken top 5 and won shows throughout the year. So, after everything that happened, I just found out what the diagnosis was on Wednesday of this week. So it's been 5 weeks. I haven't been in the gym, eating, 3-4 meals a day, not really doing much, just, trying to just de-stress myself from everything that went on this year because, all the shows I did, my focus was on New York. That's like an Olympia to me. My fans, my friends, my family can all go out and support me. And for that to happen was a real fucking, it was just a disaster for me, mentally, physically.
Guy, can anyone beat Flex Lewis in your estimation this year?
It's hard, man. Because, David Henry's been looking good. Jose, some people bash Jose. I love Jose's physique. I like that muscle, the graininess he has. Flex has a lot of very nice lines. Ashkenani, he's like a crazier version of Jose because he's got such round muscle bellies and this crazy wide back and thick chest, but proportion-wise, he doesn't really have the legs or the hams and glutes to hang with those guys. So, it's going to be a toss-up, man. I think Flex is a dangerous competitor, and Flex is the type of guy where if he's like 2% off, he can still beat you. Or if you take somebody like me, if I'm 2% off, I look like I'm 30% off. I'll get my ass kicked. Some guys have that little buffer of being a little off and being able to still look great, and Flex is one of those guys. Ashkenani's been, he obviously proved himself last year at the Olympia. He won the Arnold. So if I had to say his biggest threat right now would probably David, Jose, and Ashkenani.
All right. Well, I guess we'll probably see you at the Olympia as an observer. Is that what the plan is?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't. You might not even see me at the show because even though I have friends competing, I'm an emotional person. I don't know if I can emotionally fucking sit in the stand, and not want to like rip my shirt off and jump up on stage and be like, I look fucking better than that guy. So I don't know, but I'll definitely be there. Yeah, I'll be there.
All right. Well, Guy, I'm glad to hear you're feeling better. I'm glad that there's nothing seriously wrong with you, and I'm sure all our viewers out there and your fans are very happy about that as well. Take some time off, and will we see you at the Arnold next year, or are you going to wait all the way to the New York Pro?
This is how I figured it out. I figured, Dave, if I'm having a productive offseason and I'm making a lot of progress and making the improvements that I want, then I'm not going to slow down for the Arnold. I'm not. I've slowed down too many times for shows because I wanted to do this show, that show. So I told myself if I'm making gradual improvements, I've never had a coach tell me to do a show. So I'm pretty much going to leave that up to Estito, which I've never done. But if I'm making good improvements, personally, I'm just going to want to keep coasting into a show later on, whether it's New York again or a show later on in the year, just so I can maximize my time off of not having it in 7 years.
All right. Well, we're always pulling for you, Guy. We love you, and thanks for taking some time out of your schedule and filling us in on what's going on.
Always, guys. It's a pleasure. I appreciate you having me as always.
All right, and that'll take us to the end of another episode of Live With, brought to you by Yamamoto Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo, and we'll see you next time.